just if I want to get across, it's just how much pure fun you can have and how many meaningful relationships you can have creating together.
Hello and welcome to Where the Living Room Used to Be, a podcast about Rhode Island's music scene. Hey everyone, it's James. I recently sat down with my friend and bandmate Christian Caldarone to talk about his 30-plus years as an active musician, his experience working as a sound person at the Met and the Century Lounge back in the day, what it was like starting LibertyFest, and how a young kid on Smith Hill may have helped to influence a line of Eastman Guitars. We also take a deeper look at our band High Plains' new album Ghost Town, which is available on lathe-cut vinyl, CD, and streaming everywhere on April 15th. Hope you enjoy this look back at Providence's music scene. Please follow Where the Living Room Used to Be on Facebook and Instagram, as I'll be posting some photos, videos, and show flyers from Christian's time in music.
Well, you know, my dad is an acoustic guitar player and songwriter.
Okay, yeah.
And I grew up with sitting on the couch listening to him play music, and I always loved the songs he wrote. He wasn't prolific. He didn't have a lot of them at the time, but I loved the ones he had. And, you know, he would play some Beach Boys, you know, off of Pet Sounds and stuff. And I was just wild about that. And he had a big old record player, one of those built-in pieces of furniture. Yeah. I have it in my house now, and I've retrofitted it with another record player and hooked it up to the speakers so I can listen to albums through that. Yeah. And he had a collection of albums. He had most of the Beatles. I remember he had, and you know, some other 60s. Like he had a lot of 60s folk, you know, the Kingston Trio and stuff. I didn't really get into that too much. I like, you know, when I could go find, you know, go find the Beatles, or he had a Kinks album that was cool. Yeah, yeah. So that was my introduction, really. And so I kind of grew up listening.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Centerdale. Okay. Like the Johnston, North Providence line. Yeah. Smith Street was sort of the dividing line, Route 44. I lived on the Johnston side, and my grandparents lived about a mile away in North Providence. And so I would ride my bike and spend a lot of time with my grandparents. My grandfather was the president of a public golf course, so I would work in the summers. Oh, that's I would cool. Wake up at 5 a.m. and go rake traps. And I had my headphones on and listen to music summer mornings. That's
pretty cool.
Wow. I haven't thought about that in a while, James. Yeah. You're good at this.
Like, what were you listening to then? Were you did you make like mixtapes at the time, or did you?
Yeah, I was young. I was listening to radio. I kind of remember classic rock when I, you know, at that age. Yeah. It was cool. It was like a.
You had one of those Walkmans,
Walkman. It was a Walkman. Yeah.
Yeah, like the yellow Walkmans. That's what I'm imagining.
I remember that. I think mine was black.
I had the radio one, but I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, you know, I that's sort of my introduction. So I was always around it. But, you know, I played basketball and baseball too. I mean, but I think, you know, when I really sort of switched into musician mode was when I didn't make the baseball team freshman year in high school. Yeah, okay. And I was like, you know what? All right, I'm done with sports. And then I kind of jumped into guitar, to electric guitar.
Yeah. Was that your first instrument, was guitar?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, I went to LaSalle Academy in Providence. And, you know, I got involved with the music program. but I couldn't play jazz. I couldn't read music. But the teacher, Jim Lafitte, he formed a rock band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the rock band was really good. It featured Jay Burnt on drums.
Really? Wow.
I recruited Jay as a freshman. We took the bus together, maybe a sophomore. He had really long hair in the front, new wave style. And Jay Rigney, who's who's a professional metal musician, who's played all over Europe to thousands of people in summer festivals. So we had quite the band there at LaSalle.
Yeah, you didn't even know it.
Yeah, and that's where I wrote my first song. I think I was a sophomore or junior. So that's where I started to dabble and started to write.
Yeah, but even at that early age, you were into writing music.
Yeah, we were mainly, we mainly did covers. We would hurt people's ears trying to play Message in a Bottle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I started to integrate my own originals into that, and that even at that time it was my favorite. It was my favorite part of the set.
With the original ones that you were doing. Yeah. And what was the next step with that? Like, was it just a LaSalle band?
It was just a LaSalle band.
When was your band outside of LaSalle?
Sure. So the first band, it started out as an acoustic act with Jeremy Sensor, who I met my senior year. We still play with Jeremy in High Plains, and I've played with Jeremy. He's sort of my longest musical partner in life, and
he's awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a brilliant musician.
What was that band?
That band was the Cactus Band, and we would write originals. We were both writing at the time, and we'd play covers, and we'd go play local bars and parties, and we got paid for it. So that was sort of our nighttime summer job. He was a lifeguard. I did a bunch of different things at the golf course, and then I bagged groceries at the local convenience store. But we were playing, I think we started the summer of our senior year, and then we played summers when we came back from college. And it was kind of funny because we were 17 playing, making like $50 or $75 each a night.
Wow.
They give us something to eat.
Where were you playing?
We played, our steady gig was Potter's, which was in Apple Valley Mall.
All right.
Over in Greenville.
Yeah.
So Bob was an incredibly nice guy who actually had some connection. He just had some natural connections with the music industry. I remember he was all excited one day when we went into play because his buddy Clarence was in the night before, and he made him lobsters. He made him like 5 lobsters. Clarence Clemens.
Okay.
Yeah. He's like, Clarence was in. Oh, he sees me every few years.
Wow.
I'm like, why did you call us, Bob? Well, he just dropped by unannounced. So we were 17, and Bob would ask us, "You guys, can you drink?" And we're like, no, we're 17. But then the next summer, we were 21, so we were able to drink. So I guess he forgot that 17 becomes 18. He's like, you guys are 21 now, right?
Like, of course.
Yeah, we're 21. So then we were able to drink while we played, and we didn't drink a lot, but it's still awfully nice.
The experience. Yeah, I got
and we would pick up parties and play electric too. But we were going back to college and stuff. So
and who else was in the band? Was it?
It was just the two of us at that point.
Okay. And were you both playing?
We were just playing acoustic and harmonizing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool. No, I dig that.
Yeah, it was fun, and I did that at college too. Made some money playing acoustic songs.
Yeah.
And in school.
Yeah. And roughly what year was this when you were active with the Cactus Band?
The Cactus Band was early 90s.
Okay.
And then, and then after school, I moved to the Lower East Side in Manhattan and lived there for a while. And, then Jeremy and I moved to, well, actually, before I moved to Manhattan, we moved to, we intended on playing music and, forming a band and doing that for a while, but life took different turns. And we ended up working in the Hamptons.
Really?
We each had like three jobs to like pay rent, but we were able to play over there in bars and make money too.
Cool.
So it's always been a nice part-time job for us, kind of, and have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Like what would you say your songwriting style was early on?
Early on it was acoustic.
Yeah.
Like 3 chords. It was. I've always been a lyric guy. I've always really emotionally connected with lyrics and songs and songwriters who I love. But then I went through a spell, right after this where I guess I was listening to like Sebado and more like experimental or garage rock stuff. And I was overcomplicating. I was really complicating stuff. I was writing like just figuring out fingerings that were strange. Every song had like 10 parts to it.
Yeah.
And I did that for a while. And I also spent a long time playing in different tunings and not playing in a standard guitar tuning.
Yeah.
I've vastly simplified what I do in the last 10, 15, 20, 15 years though. I've learned to appreciate simplicity.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'd rather layer other instruments and other melodies and other, harmonic things going on than just try to do it all with one guitar with fancy fingerings and then with so many changes,
Yeah.
I'm more of a melody guy anyway, so those complicated changes, I sort of, it was a phase of mine.
Yeah.
But, then I moved back from New York and sort of picked up with some friends like filmmakers and other musicians around town, and started hanging out at the Safari Lounge.
Yeah.
Kind of before Jimmy had like a lot of bands in there. They'd all be like, he'd have one every 2 weeks. He'd have like a old blues band or something. But and then everybody, all my friends at that point ended up bartending there. I never worked there, but I used to bring. Jimmy would trust me with the bank, and I'd take the cash to the bank and deposit it for him.
Oh wow, okay.
And when he was getting the first time when he was getting evicted, we I went to court. I was kind of between jobs at the time, so I'd go to court with them and help understand. And so the group of friends, we all sort of put our energies together to try to save the Safari, and there were a ton of other people involved. That was a great time.
Yeah. Well, can you talk a little bit more about what your experience was at the Safari and some of the music that you saw there, and just why it was worth saving.
I was in a band at the time that before that, the sort of early living room days. I was playing in a band called Bellwether, and Jeremy was in that band, and we would play.
When was this? Like what?
This was mid '90s.
Okay.
And we would play with like Smudge before they were Kilgore.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Jeremy named Kilgore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, after Kurt Vonnegut, Kilgore Trout. And we play with Mixelplix, Tara Stevenson, now Tara Hanson's band, and Ara's band. We play with Gregory Rourke, Scrub Technique. So those were fun days. That was before the Safari, and I just mentioned those because those were a fun time in the music local music community because shows were very diverse back then. In terms of style. So it wasn't just a genre night where it's just all heavy.
Yeah.
And I used to like that because you'd have Mixoplex who played this really interesting sort of almost mathy, bordering on funk with Tara, just being an amazing front person. And then you have real heavy with Smudge, and we were like a pop rock band, like an early indie band.
Oh, okay.
I kind of always gravitated towards the indie stuff.
Yeah.
But then with the Safari, my friends started working there, like Brian Tracy, Mike Delahunty. Jimmy started doing more music. I remember Brian built the stage there. And, I was in a band at the time. I think during those years, it was the Noodles, which was a band I was in with Joe Lucy, who was the person who started LibertyFest because he owned the properties and he had it on our street, on Duke Street. And, Otto D'Ambrosio, the guitar, the luthier, one of my closest friends, he's out in California now. Chris DiGiulio was the drummer. Kelly Farris, who, I spoke to Kelly, I think she's in Florida now. And then later on, Uriah Donnelly from, he's with the Collaborative now in Warren.
Yeah.
That was an awfully fun band.
Yeah, what was the sound of that?
Oh, that was a cacophony of craziness. we had Joe's songs, and then we had like 3 other lead singers, and I would write the music to their songs, and they would come with lyrics. So we were all over the place. I mean, we had songs like, "I want 2 Dunkin' Donuts and a medium regular," But they also had they were really Bobby and Bobby. How could I forget Bob Rossi? Bob Rossi was the heart and soul of that band. But we were just a sort of a big, I don't know, like a party band. But the words were excellent. I mean, one of Joe's songs, was about euthanasia. It was about the right, with the right to live comes a right to die. I mean, our songs, they were social commentary. The New Society. That was one of our songs. In the New Society, and Bobby just in one take had this beautiful song about just how this utopian society in the futuristic district, which is what Joe called Duke Street, where we all lived in that Smith Hill neighborhood.
Yeah.
So we played at the Safari with Vic Thrill. And that's Bill Campion from the Bogmen in New York. I actually knew Bill from my New York days. And he had a pretty good influence on me early on because he's always been they're playing again, and he's just a wonderful singer and lyricist. But yeah, we would play at the Safari. We would play. There was a fun club at the mall. It was a comedy club that Uriah Donnelly was booking. Noah Donnelly, Uriah's brother. So we would go play at this comedy club.
That was in the mall?
We would be dressed up ridiculously. We were, I don't know. I think I was wearing a cowboy hat a lot.
Yeah.
And Kelly would come in boas and falling down. It was just, there were like 10 of us. It was like just crazy.
It was a performance.
We were performance art.
Yeah. That's cool.
And we had a recording back then. It's called Al Dente. And I remember it was in a couple of local bars. So it was always fun to be playing pool and then someone would go play one of our songs. And they were just silly, goofy songs.
Yeah.
And we would get a kick out of it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It was fun. Yeah.
Ever since I'm falling out haven't had a single doubt that I'm losing you in my hair. I'm feeling so much pain, seeing it go all down the drain. Now that I'm losing you in my hair. Thought I had a good head on my shoulders, oh, that I'm growing older now that I'm losing you in my hair.
Well, yeah, I mean, you bring up LibertyFest. I know that you have a pretty tight connection with that. Can you talk about your involvement with that festival, and then also just talk about the festival? Like, what was it, and who were some of the bands that came through that? I mean, I personally got to attend it several years. It was it was something I looked forward to. So first off, thank you for all of your work with that. But yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that festival.
Yeah. So that started, I think, in 2000.
Okay.
And Joe Lucy is he's a visionary. And he had some houses that, he owned on Duke Street and Orm Street. I moved into one of them, didn't even have, I didn't have drywall in in the room I moved into. It was real urban camping at the time.
Yeah.
So when I started teaching at LaSalle and living there, it was really tough because it was tough to get to sleep. I had a tough first year there. Because it was also somewhat of a, party house, and it was never quiet. But so Joe had this idea to have a LibertyFest, and a bunch of us who lived there, got together and had a couple of planning meetings in the backyard, and we built a stage out of old wood that was around and put it on concrete blocks and shoved it in the backyard of Lisa Carnival's house on Bath Street, and invited, just invited some friends. I mean, I think I played the first, I played at a lot of the early LibertyFest, probably the first 10 in various incarnations of bands. Yeah. But, those first ones were, a couple of hundred people. We had face painting for kids. It was a very family-friendly community event. And we always shut the street off. And that was interesting because we wouldn't ever pull permits or anything. We would just put barriers and not let anyone drive on the street. Yeah. And when we would ask Joe, well, Joe, how are we gonna do this? What about the cops? He goes, well, we're not going to get permits. We have permitsin. And he'd say that, whatever that meant. We have permitsin. And that would be his way of saying, who cares? We'll deal with cops when they come. Yeah, yeah. And,
it definitely had like this DIY
It was completely DIY. We'd get a few kegs. We'd roast a goat or a pig, every year. Probably wasn't the...
And it was 4th of July.
It was always on the 4th of July. It was
hence the LibertyFest.
Whatever day it was. And we would... I remember we had a spit for the pig, and for most of the years it was my old oil tank that I sawzalled in half. Yeah, yeah. And then we kind of welded. Sean in the neighborhood was a welder, and he put like kind of the spit racks on it.
Why did you have an old oil tank?
Oh yeah,
I like how you just said it so nonchalantly.
Yeah,
like, old oil. Like everyone has an oil tank. Oh yeah, because that's my old one. No, I have a new one.
Well, no, I got I got rid of. We converted to gas. But we cut that in half to bring it out, and I think it was a big planter for a couple of years. Yeah, because I owned a house on Duke Street, and that's where we roasted a few years worth of pigs. It probably wasn't the healthiest. I think they're called PCBs. Yeah. Knowing what I know now with the environmental phase 1 and 2s that I have to get done on construction jobs. Yeah, yeah. But but we did that, and you know, we would just ask some friends and play music, but very quickly we had to book and actually had to have a lineup. Within a couple of years, I was sort of I was booking one stage, and then, you know, we always had a healthy contingent of Providence noise musicians who lived in our houses because it was, you know, urban camping, or just were really tight with the whole Oneyville music scene.
Yeah.
So we'd always have a really great showing of
Do you remember some of those bands?
Yeah. White Mice were always my favorite. Jolly's band killed me. They would. Have you ever seen White Mice?
I don't think I've ever like actually seen them live. No, I mean I've seen videos and other stuff like that, but I don't think I've actually got to see them in person.
Jeez, they would dress in really dirty, full mouse costumes, and just put black. I think it was white makeup or black on their face, like or I can't quite remember. I think their faces were just covered with their costume. You couldn't tell who was who. Yeah. It was a full costume. That's right.
Yeah.
And they would just play noise, fuzzed out stuff. And you know, Jolly, if you know him, he's just such a brilliant soul, such a lovely guy. And I remember one time before he's going to go, he said, "Oh, Chris, you're going to like this set. We're playing our Christmas set today." And very earnestly.
Yeah.
And he meant it.
Yeah.
Hey, but I didn't know it didn't sound like any particular song, but you know, it was their Christmas set.
Yeah, all right.
And you know, one of my favorite times, because they played a few years, but we were in the back. This is a few years into it when LibertyFest expanded out to Eston Street, which is the next street, because the backyards were all connected.
Okay.
And so they're playing in between, and it's really brilliant and loud, and the sun had gone down, and it was just wonderful. And I was standing in back of a pickup truck that was like at the front of the driveway watching them with Tina and a couple of friends.
Yeah.
So I looked down, and there's a bag of fireworks. So, I mean, what's better than picking up the fireworks and lighting them from hand and you know, bottle rockets by hand, right above the band, but also right next to houses and roofs. It was very dangerous, but nothing happened. And it's a really beautiful memory I have of White Mice playing their amazing music and me lighting fireworks from by hand off the back of a truck.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the early shows, you know, John McCauley and Paul Mirandola, John used to play when he was 17. Because I lived in Smith Hill, and that's where John's family was from. And I taught at LaSalle from till 2004. And I mean, during that time, there were just some really great, brilliant students that I had. And some of them wrangled me to be their advisor for this poetry group they had called Spoon. SPUN with an umlo, Student Poetry Union. And basically, they were just like creative, brilliant students. And I would just sit there and participate or just really enjoy whatever they were doing, whether it was music or poetry. And that's like going back, Mike Day, that's where I met Mike Day. You know, Judith Bingham was a little bit later than that, but had some really, you know, met some young students who I later on became friends with. And John was a sophomore in my English class. And I remember he invited me to come see him. He was playing at AS 220.
Yeah.
So I went and I met his dad and mom.
Yeah.
And then John's sisters became my babysitters when I had my kid. And and then John would just come and play LibertyFest for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it was fun, like 10 years later, after it had moved to another street. It was still Joe's house. Joe moved. West Park Street. And actually Deer Tick came down and played Deer Tick played at one of the LibertyFests. And that's kind of, I played that one, but that was like one of the last years I was involved at all, because then my kids got older and It was just a little harder.
Yeah, yeah. When did LibertyFest end then?
It hasn't really ended, right? Because it sort of got taken up, and it was
like Rick's taking it at dusk.
Yeah, and even before Rick, it was at what's that place right down the street from us? I forget, but Danny Baldwin worked there, and they had it there, and then Rick took it over.
Yeah, okay.
The Revival Fest,
right.
Which I think is doing great.
Okay, yeah,
paying. It was quite a festival. I mean, at the height of it, we would have hundreds, 600 or 700 people on our streets.
Yeah,
it was nuts.
It was a scene.
It was so much fun. Mm-hmm. I can't remember all the bands. Gavin Castleton's bands used to come.
Okay.
Ibu Gogo. They were great.
They were awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Chris Hansen played. Pedro's band played. Do you know Pedro?
Who plays in Swampbirds now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Pedro's band always played behind Lisa's house.
Yeah.
Good times.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did sound at the Met Cafe for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I moved over to the Century for about 4 years.
Yeah.
And the joke is, my joke, which is kind of terrible, but I worked and then the club closed. I worked until both of them closed. But I was teaching at LaSalle, so I wasn't like a full-time guy, but...
like full-time
sound guy.
Yeah.
But I would work on weekends, and I think, Mike Aruda...
How did you get into doing sounds? Just from doing it, and then
because Mike didn't have a sound guy for an all-day punk rock show, and he was stuck. So he asked his friends, me, Jeremy, and Brian Tracy, listen, can you guys work? I'll show you how to run sound. You're all musicians, and we're like, yeah, we can handle that. I mean, it was mainly just vocals, just riding the vocals. He trained us for about 15 minutes and then left, said, I have to go.
Yeah.
And by the end of the night, I was the only one. It was a long day. It was like 10 hours. By the end of the night, I was the only one still back there. They left. Jeremy would rather be a bartender, and Brian had no time for this. And I actually liked it. Yeah. So I started doing sound. I had no training besides being a musician.
Wow.
And boy, it was tough for the first couple of months. I would physically feel like, you ever get nervous before a gig, like you have to throw up? Mm-hmm. That's how I would feel before shows.
Oh, okay.
That I was doing sound for. Yeah, I mean, I did some big acts too. But I got good at it. I got a lot of great help. I remember T-Buck, Tom Buckland.
Okay.
Came over one day, introduced himself, and just said, hey, do you mind if I said, no, Tom, help me out, and he showed me some really great, like, studio cuts, how to get the kick drum to fit right in the mix, and Mike, I joked that there wasn't much training, but Mike showed me a ton as well. Aruda Aruda had my back. He had my back. I'll always be grateful to Mike for what he did for me. Mm-hmm. But I had a lot of great help too. And I think I split those 4 years. It was me, Mike, and Danny Baldwin doing sound for 4 years there.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. A couple of times going over to Lupo's to do wedge monitors, but I didn't have much time. I only had weekends.
Yeah. Who were some of the memorable shows that you did sound for? Are there any standouts?
Peter Wolf was
stories?
fun.
Yeah.
Because he had a sound guy that was traveling with him, and he was new. So he told me, he goes, I'm putting him through the ringer tonight. So
Peter said this to
Yeah, he said this to me. So he was giving him such a hard time, making him sweat about frequencies in the monitors. He was giving it, and it was good. Boy, I did sound for Mike Watt.
Yeah.
Oh, and he played with Jay Mascis, and they played friggin' Stooge covers. Oh my God! And Jay brought in a full stack in the Met, and
this was
you
when it
couldn't
was
have
downtown,
a full
right?
What?
It was when it was the downtown.
Yes,
Met, like,
the
right
second
next to
iteration of the Met.
Yeah,
it was the
just for anyone that's listening.
the Union
imagine
Street
it wasn't
Met.
a huge. I don't know what was the cap of that room. Maybe
I don't.
150.
That's what I was thinking. 125, I think.
Yeah. All right. So yes, imagine.
And he brings a full. Jay brings a full stack.
Yeah.
I'm like, how am I supposed to get vocals over this, man? But Mike Watt was a great guy. I remember I walked in, and he was already there. Turned around, just stuck out his hand and said, "Hey, I'm Watt." That's how he. How he introduced. I'm Watt. I'm like, hey, Mike, how are you?
Yeah.
I used to love doing the Queers. Oh my God, the Queers were probably my favorite band because I'd be back there with my friends, and I had my mic.
Yeah.
I would put it really low in the house mix, and we would sing backgrounds.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was fun. Oh, it was so much fun.
I've never heard of anyone doing that.
Well, I do that.
That is a fantastic
Oh yeah,
story.
I mean, there was probably barely on, but
I know, but that's
we were singing our hearts out.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Gee, I was there the night Chris Hansen had the aneurysm at his house that night, and that was a brilliant show.
Oh, wow.
I was doing sound that night. You know, I was playing with Uriah. I was there when Dave Sasquatch, you know, threw his headstock through a window, I think, or like almost broke a window. Dave had some memorable shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I'd be remiss. I had met my wife she was doing school photographs at LaSalle, and I met her there and had a little bit of fun, and we flirted with each other a little bit. But I saw her out at a bar, and you know, we said hi, but I think we were both going out with people at the time. But then I reconnected with her at the Met at a Jump Little Children show.
Okay.
And, you know, she came by herself, which is one of the best things about my wife. She's kind of fearless. You know, she went to a show by herself. She left the Red Fez, all her ex-Boston, you know, group who would hang out the Fez. And she came over to the Met, and I ran into her, and we were both like, yeah, well, we're not with anybody anymore. And that was almost like, that was it.
Yeah.
So the Met also played a part in my, you know, my personal life. So it's kind of cool.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, after the Met, then
I jumped onto the Century.
Yeah. Okay.
With my dear friend Jimmy Reynolds.
Yeah.
Who I knew from the neighborhood because he lived on Orm Street with his wife Ellen, who, you know, we were very close with. We would have cookouts and drink red wine together all the time. Both of whom have passed. But Jimmy had me over to the Century, and then I did the same thing with the Century, and you know, sometimes I'd work at the Call. I think it was the Call at that time. Yeah. It's where I met the Brother Kite.
Okay.
Where I did sound for the Brother Kite for the first time and loved them from the first time I saw them. And a lot of them have played, you know, parts in my musical journey since then.
Yeah.
The guitarist John has been, you know, my go-to producer and engineer for every album I've made. Mark Howard played guitar with me and Maria Monk.
Yeah.
And, you know, Pat has just been always great for any advice I needed on gear or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
So just all around great people. It's also the first time I met Nick Idem. Yeah. With Canerco. And I they were so powerful.
Absolutely,
There were certain bands that stuck out. The Brother Kite and Canerco were two of them that, just like, wow. Love doing sound for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the recent news is just shocking, and it's been quite a, talking about this, my musical life. It's just been so many influential people that I've either just watched from afar and been influenced by, or got to know and grew to love, who have died, and it's been really tough for the community for the last couple of months has been rough. With Pete McClanahan, and I didn't know Mike Schiavone, but I have a lot of friends who are just completely devastated right now. And I did know Nick really well. I was at the show
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, when he 3 amazing bands in one night that he played with, and it was just a night I'll never forget. And so see, and when you ask me all this, it's really about community.
Yeah.
And that's what, as I was like, oh no one wants to hear me talk about my stuff. Who cares? But, thinking about my musical life, it's just been like everything to me. I mean, the people I know, the people I love, the music I've played, bringing my kids to the parlor for shanty sing with Mark and what Aaron and Gregory did over there, and you could bring your kid to the pub like they do in Europe, and it's not a thing, and they can listen to music, and they can know what Dad does when he goes out on Friday nights. It's a wholesome, like, amazing part of my life, But I got a little sidetracked. I'm sorry, thinking about some of the difficulties lately. But the Century, and it's interesting, during that time, as I was kind of in bands that were not really playing too much, but always practicing. And I had a really, really fun band. It was like a sludge rock band called El Rey.
Okay.
We wrote songs and then we purposely slowed them down half. Okay. And so we'd write just regular rockin' songs, but we'd play them halftime. And it was Otto D'Ambrosio, my brother in California, Robert Parker, my brother in Atlanta, and Robert was part of the. He's just wonderful. I love that dude so much. He's my coffee roaster now. He roasts coffee and does other things in Atlanta. So he sends me.
That's cool.
He sends me some every month now, but he was very involved in the noise scene and the electric. He can do anything with electronics. And, with his friend Jeremy. So that was a really fun band. And Otto is a guitar maker, and he's now the head luthier for Eastman Guitars. And Otto came out with a line of guitars called the El Rey, which was named after one of the kids in our neighborhood on Duke Street. Kid had to be like 8 years old, maybe 9, never wore a shirt, but always had a potato gun. And he'd just go around shooting potatoes. And we would, every time we heard it, we'd just all yell, "Potato!" And everybody in the neighborhood would laugh. Yeah. So that was, we called him El Rey because he was the king. And that was our band. And we just played a few shows, around, kind of basement shows and stuff like that.
I wonder if Eastman Guitars knows that. Like now they know.
Now they know. Because this is going to go. This is on the web. It's everywhere. Yeah. But around that time, my wife and I, we were living on Smith Hill, and I had been living there for most of this time, and we found a little spot on Holden Street that was like a vacant storefront, and being the community that it is, where everybody sort of got to know each other. You know, Neil was owned the building, and he said, Neil, can we open up a photo studio gallery there? And he said, sure. And he gave it to us, really cheap rent. We painted it, and it was Tina's photo studio by day, but an art gallery by night.
What was the name of the gallery?
The Holden Street Gallery.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, Smith Hill has always had a ton of residents, but there's not a lot of businesses. You know, you have Patrick's Pub.
Yeah.
You know, you have some other places and things that have been different iterations throughout the years. But, you know, they're just, you know, there's not a lot of gathering places. So, you know, our first gallery show, hundreds of people showed up. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so we had a little thing going on Smith Hill. And, you know, we would always have music. And, you know, some of my students who had graduated wanted to do the Spoon group that I discussed earlier, and
perform it out.
Yeah, it was, and then
poetry
more
readings. And
stuff. And so I started hosting it there, and that's actually the first show that Roz
what they did
that Roz ever played live. And I remember that it was great.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had some other, you know, just fun kind of coffee shop gallery shows. And that was something I did. That's when we were having kids. And that's when, you know, I also started Maria Monk with Pete Landry.
Yep.
And we recruited Mark Howard into the band to play guitar, and then Pete's wife at the time, Rachel Shawley, joined us on drums. And we used to practice in my basement on Bath Street, making a hell of a lot of noise. And we played for a few years. That was really fun. You know, it was kind of before I got my real recording chops done. I mean, we had gone and recorded stuff at Newcastle Sound with Randy before, who's a dear friend, and just a lot of people in Rhode Island know Randy because he's a great guy to record with. But you know, at that time, I just wasn't doing much. It was I didn't have any money. You know, it was expensive. So we recorded a demo in the basement. We multi-tracked it. But that's when we kind of went to John Downs for the first time.
Yeah.
Of the Brother Kite.
Like it was a split.
He did a split EP with Garage Sale Picasso.
Yep.
Judith Bingham, Keith and John Menard.
Yeah.
The Mighty Menard brothers from Douglas, Mass. Who I later formed the Lincoln Tunnel with. And Jason Mazarowski, who was also died last year.
Oh, okay.
And he would come to some of our early shows, so I got to know him a little bit. And I know that was a big loss to the Worcester music. You know, seeing everybody up there knew and really liked him, really loved him, I should say. Yeah, so geez, you know, going through this, it's amazing what's happened. But anyway, you know, Maria Monk played for a while and played some fun shows. We used to play all around Providence and played the Pawtucket. They used to have a Rocktoberfest.
Yeah,
we played that.
Rocktucket. Yeah.
You know, we played LibertyFest. That was our first show. One of the LibertyFests. Would it be so much different? around that time, I also met, I knew Aaron Janig, from going to the parlor, and we had formed a band to play at Wayward Christmas at the parlor, which you were involved in.
Yeah.
But I don't think I knew you too well at the time. But we were playing we were playing as a 3-piece, and then he said, "Oh, my wife can sing, So I said, "Oh, will she sing with us?" He said, "Yeah, I'll ask her if she'll come over." So that's where I met Annie. So in this band, we called it SAD, Seasonal Affective Disorder, because it was a winter thing. And so that's when I started my my musical relationship with Annie, who is my sister.
Yeah, in High Plains now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was for, again, community. It was for your show over at the Wayward Christmas at the parlor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so after Maria Monk, I played with the Lincoln Tunnel.
Yeah.
And it was the Menard Brothers.
Just because you had kind of befriended, how did you meet them and how did you connect with them? Was it through that split? Or
well, it was interesting. I connected with Judith at a LibertyFest.
Okay.
And yeah, she had just seen me play, and we put out the split EP. And that's where we decided, let's put out a split EP because we both have a couple of demo songs.
Yeah.
So that's when I met the guys in her band.
Okay.
So when we broke up, when Maria Monk broke up, I went through a period where I wasn't really playing with anyone. That's when we did our Neon Night Riders gig in the middle of that, which we can talk about a little bit.
That'll be the bulk of this interview was going to be about Neon Night Riders.
I figured, because that one epic show was epic.
Yeah.
I met John and Keith and got friendly with John, and I forget who emailed. I don't know. We were just talking and said, "Hey, you want to get together?" That was here. So I built this space. No one was in it. And I remember after Maria Monk broke up, I still was friends. I'm very privileged to do what I've done. I haven't, because I've managed to retain friendships with almost everybody I've played with, even when, Maria Monk, I didn't break up. That was a different situation.
Okay.
But you never get too bent out of shape, I suppose. But so I had played, the first time I played was with Mark and Pete here, and I had this one song that was new. That was really good. Damn, I Wear It Well.
Okay.
And they really liked it. I sometimes form bands because of one or two new songs that don't fit what I've been doing.
Yeah.
So, but they were kind of busy and it didn't work out. So I called John and he said, "I have a brother." We started playing as a 3-piece. Mm-hmm. And then my friend Chris Sternad, who had become a great friend to me through my job on Smith Hill and then the gallery, said, "Oh, I have a friend who plays drums." So Will McGrath jumped in, and Will is one of the coolest people and one of the just most chill people I've ever met. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, you were there for my birthday when my wife sent me on a mystery trip.
Yes.
All right, you're leaving tomorrow from Boston at 7 a.m. So you should stay up all night, and so you can make the plane. That's where she flew us out. That was to go visit Will, the original drummer of the Lincoln Tunnel, and his wife. She's a brilliant professor, and Will's a brilliant writer. Mm-hmm. So we formed that, and we did Today 2.0, which I'm really proud of. That's a nice little album. Yeah. And we did that with John Downs. Kind of learned the recording process with him. Mm-hmm. Everybody's different, the tracking process. Played around a lot. And then Will went to South Africa for the summer, and then he came back, played a few more months, and then was like, "Oh, guys, I'm moving to Minnesota." So we were really bummed.
Yeah.
But, John wrote this really amazing, Craigslist ad or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. John was like, don't worry, I'll find it. Put it out there. And we tried out a few drummers that didn't work, but we found Mike Tommaso, Tomahawk. So then he joined the Lincoln Tunnel, and we put out our second album, Phone This One In, which again I'm really proud of. That's got some nice ones on there.
Yeah. And what were some of the inspirations for that band? I mean, it kind of has a, unique indie rock kind of feel to it, but like, what were you pulling from for the Lincoln Tunnel?
Well, I'm really influenced by the Replacements. Always have a healthy Beatles influence with the harmonies.
Yeah, okay.
But again, love the Stones, who have the loose, and that's one of the things I love about your drum playing. Sometimes you just get a little touch behind the beat, and it's so cool because it adds this groove to it. That gets me going. I'm a huge Modest Mouse fan, but John had to school me because I was like, why can't you make my vocals sound like Modest Mouse? Because you don't write songs that sound like Modest Mouse. John has a very direct approach.
Yeah, John Downs.
He'll tell you if something sucks or not. He didn't say it's, but he'll tell you. I think that's why later on I did Steadystate, because I was like, well, I'm going to write songs that sound more like, that don't sound like indie rock.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to get a synthesizer and learn how to play piano.
Yeah.
But, and Keith, the guitarist, who has a very unique style. I would say his style is loud.
Yeah.
And, but he built his own guitar cabinet and had this Frankenstein guitar board, which annoyed me because it was just way too big. But he could get some great sounds out of it.
Oh, okay.
So, and he was very influenced by REM. And he had a noisy but melodic lead guitar style. And it's interesting because we had Neon Night Riders. Now that was a project that was like, I forgot what they call it, rock and roll lotto.
Yeah, so that was actually how you and I really first connected. I mean, we might have met, maybe? I don't even know.
But that's when that
was when we first...
And I remember being a little, like, not intimidated, but like, I didn't know you. I know I didn't know you that well, because first practice was in your basement. Next to the boiler, five of us shoved in there, and the idea was you put the instrument you played, and then they picked them out of a hat, formed bands, and in 30 days you had to play a show.
Exactly, yeah.
So I couldn't go that night, but Aaron put my name in, and then he texted me. He goes, "Oh, you really made out well." He's like, "You got some great musicians."
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. He's so, and he was right. I mean, what was it? It was me, you, Caleb Cabral.
Yeah. But he and I were playing in Cedro, so that was actually nice because I'm a pretty shy person. Don't like to put myself out too much. So and I like to kind of know what I'm getting into. And this was not that. It was precisely what you said. I was like, just put your name in there and you're going to be playing music with some strangers. But it was very exciting. But definitely get kind of looking out and being at least with Caleb, who just love working with him. So that was nice. But yeah, I was with him. And then Jeff from
Lane Genie.
Yeah.
Holy Jesus.
And like
those chords that he could play
he had
would
like
make our heads spin.
I don't know what he was doing.
Jeff, what chord was that? That was crazy.
Yeah. But yeah.
He played, I have a half stack over there. He's like, "Oh, can I play the half stack?" I'm like, "Sure." Those are some good practices in here.
Yeah.
So Caleb, and then Ray DeSimone on sax.
Yeah.
So we had this great, amazing musician playing sax. So I think that was all of us. And we basically went in a room and wrote songs whilst jamming. And we would, I kind of am an avid recorder. So I'd record them and then kind of arrange them and write lyrics to them. That became my role in the band. Because I'm really not that great of anything. Like, I'm not a great guitarist or anything. But I can write a song. So I crafted the songs. I think we had 6. I thought killer songs out of that. And so this is a great segue because I always thought we should have recorded those. But one of the songs, really stuck out to me, the song Bedroom Eyes. I remember Caleb kind of wrote the hook, and I just he wrote like the musical hook, which I just fell in love with and couldn't get out of my head. And I wrote the song about a local musician who I emulated and was in love with when I was younger, watching her play on stage. She was a bass player. And then right around that time, I read in the paper that she had killed her lover and was in jail. And it was like complete, like, oh my God, like shocking and disturbing. And my heart was torn in half. I mean, drugs were involved. And I'm sure people, it's not hard to probably figure out who that was. But so I wrote Bedroom Eyes about that story, sort of being in awe and in love with a musician on stage, and then what happened. So I recorded that, and I asked all you guys, is it okay?
Oh yeah.
And I gave, even on the album, everybody got songwriting credits because we literally wrote that together in a room. But we recorded that song in the second Lincoln Tunnel album.
Yeah.
And boy, that's one of my favorites that I've ever recorded.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I can see your bedroom eyes clearly through this dim lit hall. Make me think of brighter times in the warm breeze, different from this bathroom stall. I can see the legend written in my mind, perfect words that would have changed your time. In my eyes I still can see all those days that we left behind.
So Steadystate, I really think though it was Jeremy. Jeremy and I had kids and hadn't really talked for a couple of years just because we were super busy. And so, we kind of got back together and said, why aren't we playing music together? And so I went to his house. He said, I set up my son's like toy keyboard here. I figured you'd want to play keyboard. And I was like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
We'll jam, I'll play keyboard. So I started playing and with the acoustic, and then figuring out how to hold the sustain and do two things at once.
Yeah.
So then I just bought two synthesizers.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm old. I got a few $100 that I can
Invest in
yeah,
this.
I'm not going to wait any longer. Like life just goes by too fast. So they're sitting over there. And then I started writing sequences. It's just amazing. I write to sequences, and then I'd either write a melody line or I write an acoustic guitar line. But sometimes just have a sequence, and then Jeremy, who can play bass or guitar like a wizard, would just start with this great guitar line. And then we connected with Robbie Blunt, who I'd played a little bit with before, and then he moved for, I think, grad school. And, Rob is just one of my... See, I have so many favorite people, and that's really what I think I want to... Just if I want to get across, it's just how much pure fun you can have, and how many meaningful relationships you can have creating together. So I called Rob because I said, Jeremy, I don't know any drummers who can do like, what we're doing needs a really, like, Jeremy calls it a lead drummer. And I was like, let me call Rob. I think he'd be great at this. So Rob came down. I mean, he plays to a sequence in his cans without a click track.
Okay.
That's hard to do. You're
Yeah,
a drummer
yeah.
and how we can stay on rhythm without a click track to some weird sequences that I'll program. It's kind of phenomenal. And so, Steadystate kind of became my main band, and we got Pete Landry back from Maria Monk.
Mm-hmm.
And we wrote a ton of really good songs. We recorded 6 of them on 2 EPs. And then Pete met a wonderful woman at Brown, and then, in the middle of COVID, said he had to move to Norway. He was moving to Norway with her.
Yeah.
So Pete moved to Norway. We had a really, really fun going away party at dusk for him, and he played in another band, so both of his bands played. We called it Pete Fest.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost Pete, and boy, was I down. So then Rob said, all right, I got a friend moving back to town. He's a great bass player. So he'll play bass with us. So we waited for him, and then we were going to start playing last year around Labor Day. And I called him. I was like, I texted him. I was like, all right, let's start practicing. So he called me 5 minutes late, like a minute later, and I knew something was up. And then Robbie told me that he was moving to California for a job. So,
Yeah.
So that band sort of, we still have 7 or 8 songs that need to be recorded. I think they're amazing. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I still hum them.
Blind king on the hill, who got his crown. A dancer in concrete, she fell down. The soldiers in there too, with a clown. Is waiting for a phone call in a pool hall across town. They never see it coming. They only watch it go.
High Plains started in 2016.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of a different sound. It was with you and Annie.
And
I'd like to,
bluegrass musicians.
yeah. Can you just maybe talk just a little bit about like how that formed and
Absolutely.
was it like a I know that you write a lot of different stuff, and you had mentioned that sometimes you write some songs that don't really fit with another project. Was that
was High Plains.
okay.
I had some more acoustic songs that were just more upbeat or ballady. I had kind of both. And they didn't fit in the Lincoln Tunnel, which was more of an indie rock band. But then when I started singing with Danny, and I would play some of the songs with her, because we got together, every 2 months we get together and play.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just adore playing with her.
Yeah.
She makes me a better singer because she's a great musician with a great ear. And, we started playing these acoustic songs, and they just sounded great to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked with Matt DePinto at the Century, and so we were friends, and he started playing stand-up double bass. And, he had a friend, Jeff Badowski, who is like a wonderful mandolin player.
Mm-hmm.
And can everything he picked up, he was wonderful at. He's one of these multi-instrument musician guys. And we just started to practice, and they were bluegrass guys, and
Okay.
I played the Nick and E's bluegrass jam,
The throwdown.
the throwdown,
Yep.
with like packed house there. I think I did a real faux pas there because I brought in John Downs to play some snare drum to that, just because my right hand, I just couldn't do that. Like bluegrass is a physically demanding style to play.
Yeah. I always advocate for more drums and bluegrass.
I know, I know,
so
but
if Sal's listening,
there's a lot of purists in the scene.
Yeah,
and, no, but I made more money there than I think I've made at most shows. It was a pass the hat.
Yeah.
But so that was a one album thing. We just kind of, Matt moved right after the album dropped, and it was just disappointing because we really didn't get a chance to play any shows when that album came out. Mm-hmm. So what do you do with an album that's released online? We had CDs made up, 75 or less, put it out. Yeah. Thanks, Slick is amazing, and Mark. He put out all the Lincoln Tunnel stuff too. But we had no shows. Mm-hmm. And again, I've learned to deal with it because that's what happens when you're not a professional musician. People move, people have babies, people join other bands that don't have time, and you really just have to accept it. If you get bitter, which I've spent many years being bitter, but if you get bitter, it only hurts you. And if you have a passion and want to play music.
Smile upon my face whenever she get near me, yeah. Ooh. 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 You wanna know my name? Well, they call me the fool. Smile on my face means I'm a fool for you, yeah.
But I kind of remember where this came back. Tina and I, pre-COVID, we had New Year's parties here. Mm-hmm. And, one year Annie came over, and I was drinking a lot of wine early that night. So I'm like, Annie, I have some songs, some old songs. So we went in the other room and I played them. And, she just instantly starts to sing. And she's like, these are good. She's like, well, why don't you play these? I was like, well, because we're not playing, because we don't have a band, Annie. Yeah. It's like, all right, well, we should fix that. Uh-huh. And, two of those are Make Believe. Yeah. And Deep as Any Ocean. Mm-hmm. So I had those songs for a while, and Deep as Any Ocean, I actually wrote with my daughter when she was like 8 years old. She was plunking away at that piano. She just kept playing a melody over and over. And I loved it. So I'm sitting there with my guitar, and I just found some minor chords that went over it. And, I don't really write too many whatever its style that song is, it's got a little reggae root in it. But it just kind of came out, and so she was the driving factor, just playing a melody. But that song had gotten lost for years, and I played them that night for her after getting up the courage after a few glasses of wine, and then proceeded to make her play with me for the next hour. Okay. and songs we didn't know, and sing as many New Year's songs to whoever was there as we could. Yeah. So that's when it planted the seed to sort of don't forget these songs. Yeah. And then I wrote a few others during early COVID. Yeah. But I really wasn't writing at all during COVID. I had writing, we haven't really gotten into writing too much. But boy, COVID, I was too anxious to write. I wrote one song during COVID, and it's the Figure Eight song. Oh, okay. It's the only song I wrote during COVID until we started playing, and then I got some more inspiration. Yeah. I need to play to get inspiration. Okay. I can get, I need to be doing it. Yeah. I can get a little bit, down when I'm not playing, and Like it almost needs a vehicle because I really don't enjoy playing by myself. Mm-hmm. I enjoy the collaborative process. Mm-hmm. And I have more fun at practice than I do usually live shows. I really enjoy practicing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I enjoy playing.
Yeah, I remember seeing yourself and Annie part of the Love Hangover that Jen Long put together at the Columbus Theater, and that was how I, at least from my recollection of kind of even reconnecting with you. Like I don't remember again if it was like we should play together, or if I said it or you said it or whatever. But I remember talking to you like after your set, and you might have been like half joking of like, oh, I should play drums with us, and I was like, sure, you know. And I think that was
that's right.
The start of it, and then
that's right.
We connected to do some, because that was February, I think. It must have been February 2020. You know, exactly. It was like right before, like a couple of weeks.
2 weeks before it hit.
And then
we played Make Believe and Trainwreck that night, and I'm real grateful for Jen for asking us to play that. That was a great night. So many great musicians and fun. And again, see, that community, it kind of brought us together. And, you know, I had always wanted to play with you, but the thing is you need the vehicle, right? Yeah. So now Annie and I had started to play. We practiced for this show, resurrected some songs. I started writing some new ones. And now, all right, James, we should get together. And then COVID hit. Yeah. But like I say, that summer, that's when I texted, you know, like, hey, look, are you comfortable playing outside really far away from each other?
Yeah,
You're like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun to do that. And that was the beginning of Ghost Town, the album that we recorded, comes out in April. But yeah, like this is a podcast about you, but definitely like my own experience with it. It was of recording that record and writing that record. It was very different than anything I've done, basically because of COVID, like that. It was.
Me too.
In a sense, from my like sitting behind the drum set, written in this sort of like power trio type thing where it's guitar, like acoustic guitar, bass, and drums, and that was like the root of this stuff. But with the additional players, with just Annie's amazing voice being added in, there's just so much texture and the melodies and the harmony. It became this album that I'm very proud to be a part of. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about your experience, because you engineered this. This was what I believe is the first time that you've recorded something. So recorded an album, here in this practice space. And can you just talk about putting this record together? And
what's funny is we practiced with all different musicians and different iterations outside, whoever could show up. And, then I was like, all right, guys, we're ready to record. And you say a power trio. You had never heard every member of the band play together before. Mm-hmm. I had only heard us separate because Greg played with us in between the first High Plains and now us. Yeah. Greg had come on and played with Annie and I for a few one-off shows. We played Askew, we played the Galactic. So I had heard Greg, the viola player, playing certain lines to certain songs. So those were imprinted, and I knew which songs would have sort of the lead viola and where it would go. Mm-hmm. You had never even heard the viola, so you had no idea that, all right, this seems a little boring right now because there's nothing there, but actually this is where... So I kind of knew that, but then with Frankie...
Frankie Ranks,
I didn't even know his guitar lines necessarily because he wrote them while we recorded. Mm-hmm. As the engineer, what I brought to it was, all right, guys, rhythm section, James Jeremy, just play relaxed. Don't overplay. There's going to be plenty of other stuff. Mm-hmm. Don't feel like you have to fill every hole. Leave some holes and I'll fill them later.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was basically the only advice. I mean, we didn't even necessarily work on too many intros and outros. I mean, some of that stuff we just decided, John and I decided we'd just chop it. Okay, we're going to chop the beginning of the song and just start it here.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
didn't do like production wizardry. We just we kind of created some endings. It's
yeah.
All right, we played this too long. Let's just start it early. We'll fade the drums out and do this. So, you know, we did the rhythm. I did some basic mixing here, but I recorded it all. I bought a new laptop. So we recorded it. I did my acoustic guitar, and then I had the lead instruments, either Frankie or Greg, depending on the song. If I knew it was a guitar heavy song, I'd have Frankie come in. And that process was so cool, because once I understood how to, on Logic, you know, how to get many tracks, many virtual tracks, and how I so I didn't accidentally erase, and I'll go, you know, I'll go through everything later, but I could, you know, really just let everybody play, and I knew how to record. Once I did that, it started to be a real interactive process.
Yeah.
You know, it would be, all right, Frankie would play something and say, oh, but I also have this idea. So he'd give a couple of ideas. And then we would discuss, you know, my thoughts, and then it would turn into something. Or a couple of songs like Interstate, Interior, he was just like, well, I have this really distinct style. And when he did it, it was like, yes, that's brilliant. Yeah. That's it. Perfect. You know, and there was like no discussion there. His tone and his playing was just like monster. But that was so fun for me to interactively work on parts with the musicians, and with Greg with the viola, we did a lot of layering. And you know, my constant refrain with everyone is the sort of same thing I told you guys. You don't have to fill every hole. Just because it's not, we'll put something there, or we'll leave it, because space is really important in music. So, you know, sometimes, like I remember the solo for Figure Eight. It's very sparse. Like there's a little guitar lick and then a viola. Yeah. And with Frankie, you know, we worked at it. It's like, we worked that. Let's just let that guitar lick linger, and then we'll see what else goes there.
Yeah.
And, you know, to me, it really worked well with both. And then the third time, the piano. So the last person to be added to the mix was the person Rob from Steadystate brought from Massachusetts to move in with. Jason wanted to move to Providence anyway, but he was going to play bass in Steadystate. But I got to know him a bit and realized what a wonderful dude he was. Yeah. And just, it's like, do you play piano? He's like, well, yeah, a little bit. And so then we started to play, you know, once or twice a week, and he learned the songs, and he just kept getting better and better. Yeah. So he's another one where I'm sure any instrument he picks up, he's great at. But then, I went back and recorded piano on a lot of other songs. He added some. Now, John really and I had played a little piano in the studio. I remember one song, two of us, 20 fingers on one piano keyboard. Oh, really? Just in this one part, you know, holding and arpeggiating. But so the piano was sort of a group effort. But now that Jason's in the band, that's changing our sound even more from this current album. The new song, because I already have a new album written. The new album's written because
typical like songwriter fashion of, you know.
That's the thing. Like I have a vehicle now. Yeah. If I get writer's block, I just like switch instruments. Yeah. You know, or like detune my guitar and figure out some other thing that sparks other ideas. So, you know, once there's a vehicle, like, and I'm really excited about the next album. You've played most of the songs. I think this maybe one or two I haven't shown you yet. But they're a little different, but like, you know, the test is always with Annie. Like when we sing it, or if it's a song for her, because there's like 3 songs for her that I've written. And when I hear her, I know whether it's a keeper or not. And it always is, because she's always so damn good.
Yeah.
That's when I know, like, all right, that's good, because Annie just makes everything better.
Yeah. But what can people expect with the new album, Ghost Town?
Well, we play, we flex a little country muscles. We have some nice medium tempo indie rock stuff. We have a couple of Jeremy wrote this great song called Minnesota that we used to play a long time ago. Is sort of a more straight ahead rocker. It's got some great hooks in it. So I did my thing where when he showed it to me again and we remembered it, I was playing piano, so I kind of wrote a piano part. And then it just became, it's like, sorry, man, I think this is a piano ballad now. And Jeremy's like, all right, I like it. It's cool.
Yeah.
So it became a piano ballad that Annie and I, there's like a male and female part. And one interesting arrangement thing about this song that I'd love it if anybody can tell me if there's another song where it does this. We're singing different parts, and at different parts of the song, like I sing 2 bridges, she sings 1 bridge. But in the chorus, there's one chorus where I sing, there's the same words. I sing myself. The second chorus, she sings harmonies to me, I sing the melody. The third chorus, we do, and at the end, it's the third and fourth chorus are combined. She sings alone, the melody, and the fourth time, she sings the melody and I sing harmony. And maybe it's terrible. I don't know that, but I don't think so when I hear it. But I don't know that I've heard that done before, but I'm really interested if it is done, where you have like a duet, but the chorus actually is different. Yeah. It's varied. So I think that's an interesting little thing that we do on that. What else can people expect? I mean, I don't know. Like some of the songs are, a lot of the songs are real personal to me. Sometimes my lyrics are kind of straightforward, like the last song on the album. It's pretty clear what I'm singing about.
Yeah.
But there's other songs that I know what they're about, but it's just imagery.
Yeah.
And who knows if.
Yep.
I hope people enjoy it and interpret it their own way. I mean, that's really the wonderful thing about, I think, good lyrics. So I read a lot of Haruki Murakami, who kind of just writes these phantasmagoric, psychological, Pink Floyd type, stuff.
Yeah.
All subconscious and dreams. And I had coffee with someone I was getting to know. I would call her an acquaintance at that time. And over the course of this conversation, we became friends. So it's funny how one conversation solidified a friendship. She was telling me how she was an empath and how it was really hard in high school. And, it was beyond like an emotional person. I mean, I have a 13-year-old daughter who is up and down. I'm up and down emotionally, but it transcended this. It was different. She would feel things and feel energy in locations connected to energy that was there, which I completely, believe in and buy. And it was amazing hearing. I mean, I read about this stuff, but it was amazing hearing a first-person account. So, that's what that and what I had been reading, the story Dance, Dance, Dance by Haruki Murakami, that's what Season for the Ghosts is about. Yeah. So that, like, I had nothing to do with that song. Like, that was just thinking about the conversation and the story, which had elements of that, and that just kind of wrote itself.
What a season for the ghosts. All that's gone before is never far behind these days. Blackened windows and open doors. You crawl with
But yeah, with regard to that, we got to connect with David Lawler, videographer and photographer.
Thank you for introducing David to my life. He's a great guy.
He's amazing, yeah.
And a great artist.
Yeah. But yeah, we got to shoot a music video for that song. A lot of great feedback about the video, about the song as well. So thank you for those that made those comments and have checked out the video. And that was just a fun experience getting to make that video and getting to work with someone as, talented as Dave, and just being able to kind of take the little bit of vision that we kind of placed in front of him and pulling through.
And I can't believe how quickly he edited that thing. I thought it was going to take a month. He must have spent like 3 all-nighters, because like a week later he had the first cut.
Yeah.
Maybe less than a week.
Amazing. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Because he shot so much footage.
Yeah. The shoot was a certain amount of hours,
day.
and then
2 days. And I brought my kids were in it.
Yeah.
And we my kids were the younger ghosts, I suppose.
Yeah.
And we did that for a few hours one day, and then we had like a marathon 8 or 9 hour day.
Yeah.
So he had a ton of footage. He did a great job.
Yeah, and Dave has been an amazing piece of this record. He's allowed use of his photography. So the album is going to be coming out on lathe cut vinyl as a full length 12-inch CD that has a 6-panel fold out packaging and a 12-page book that includes some of the lyrics and some additional photography from David Lawler. And it's a cool.
And you did such a great job with the artwork. The cover image is, I think, just beautiful.
I think that it just really demonstrates a lot of the feeling of this album, and it's bright, but has some mysteriousness to it and everything like that. But doing some of the physical packaging, I think that it's always important to take an opportunity to give something that's worthwhile and worth picking up and purchasing and being able to engage with. And I'm just happy that we're able to do this, and being able to release this through where the living room used to be, and it'll be available online as well, digitally and streaming. And it comes out April 15th. It's just been great to be a part of this record coming out. And we have a album release show April 29th at Askew with Bank of Ireland and Alison Rose. Can you want to talk about anything with that show? And
I'm excited for that show. I just want to give a shout out to every local music venue owner and staff. Really do. I the last 2 months, as we've discussed, have been awfully hard with the friends and dear musicians who have died. But appreciating what they brought to my life and a lot of our lives. I told Gregory Rourke this the other day when we were there. I said, just thank you for persevering through COVID.
100%, yeah.
And giving us a space, because otherwise we'd all be in our practice spaces. Like, you need places to go to form communities. If you don't have physical locations, you're stuck on Zooms like we did in COVID. But boy, that sucked.
Yeah.
It was better than nothing, but not much better than nothing.
Yeah.
And so I just want everybody who's doing it right now, and so the show at Askew, live shows are tough. Again, I say I have as much fun in this room playing with you guys as I do playing live. There's always a little bit of anxiety that goes into live shows. Not nervous about the performance, but just nervous about everything else, making sure you didn't forget stuff. I'm an anxious guy, But what do I think about the show? I really, I hope I'd love to see people. I think that springtime, I think the spring everybody's going to want to go out. I mean, the Parlor 2 weeks ago, that was sold out at 8:30, which I've never seen it. I don't think I've ever seen it sold out, but it was sold out before the show started.
Yeah.
I had to wait in line with John McCauley to get into the Parlor. I mean, it's funny, you know, but it's great. It's wonderful. Like, I hope every club is like that for the whole summer.
Yes.
I hope people go out. I hope young people go out. I hope young bands form, because us old guys don't go out much. We can't drink and buy as much as we used to. I hope young bands, I hope young bands go and they can have the same sense of community that I feel right now and that I felt in my life. You know, me being an amateur musician who, like I told Annie, we don't do this. We're never going to go be famous. We don't care. But we want to make the best music we can make within all of our limitations of time and families. And, you know, that's kind of where we're at. We want to make the best music we can possibly make. We want to stay creative. We want to stay creating. And we're getting better, undoubtedly. And I hope younger people coming up can understand that it's just important, and the sense of community is something that's with you in your working life and and it's something that's has an incredible value. But I think people will like it. We have a nice set. We have wonderful musicians. We're going to play some, I think, interesting covers. That reveals a little bit about our influences and what we like. Maybe that you wouldn't expect. You know, I don't really think we can pigeonhole our band. I just write crazy songs, whatever I'm feeling, and you guys kind of go with it. So, I mean, who knows? I don't know. I guess we're Americana. Yeah. This one is a little country. I don't know. The next one is much different.
Yeah.
The machinations are already going in my head.
But yeah, the last question I have for you, part of this segment, is, what would you say is your greatest musical accomplishment to this point?
I think it's one of the last songs that I've written. I don't know. I'm a songwriter. When I write a song I like and I can't get out of my head, I think I get excited about it. I'm not saying it's great, but it's a personal accomplishment. I still get kind of amazed when I write songs, when I'm done a song, because in my writing process, I get obsessed. I can't write all the time because I would be a mess and not able to work. I get really obsessed. It's all I can listen to. I don't listen to other music generally, and I just stew about the songs. I stew. And I have to sit down and get it out. So the greatest musical accomplishment, is probably, one of the last songs I wrote that I think is real good and improving. I don't know. I'm just honored to be playing with such great musicians and to have played with so many, to share the stage, to have, Nick come up and play a set with me and Jeremy. That happened, recently. That meant the world to me, that we were able to play together and share a stage with him. And I've shared the stage with a lot of great musicians. I mean, hell, Frankie couldn't play one show that we had. We were playing an outdoor festival, and Stevie Donovan played with us. Yeah. And I asked him like 3 days beforehand. Yeah. He didn't know any of the songs. We didn't practice, but he got up and tore the stage up.
Yeah, he's awesome.
To me, I mean, that's an accomplishment.
Just having that network of people.
I wrote some songs, and one of the best guitarists around just can walk up and play them and say like, hey, I enjoyed that. He's like, I liked your songs, man. They're good. Yeah. To me, like, that's kind of everything. That's all I need. Like, to me, that's the best feeling in the world. Well,
Christian, thank you so much for taking the time. This was great. I mean, you covered so much. There was a lot of history about the Providence scene that was new to me, so I appreciate learning that stuff, and I'm glad that you got to share that with everyone.
Thanks. Yeah. Dredging up old memories. But they're good old memories, so most of them.
Yeah.
No, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
You were looking at 3 to 5 when I watched you arrive past the garden going up my drive. You came in and we sat down, didn't say a word, you didn't make a sound. I couldn't love you like before, I couldn't love you anymore, so I went out to let you in. When I showed up on your steps, trying to make amends for this beautiful mess and get a good story that I could stick to. I said I don't like rock and roll, but I don't want to stay home. Just stop by on my way to someplace low. Well, I said I had to go out to the store to get something more than I had before you got here. You took a shirt that belonged to a friend, you put it on, it fit like when I locked my keys inside of my ride. You know where the spare ones hide, so you went out to let me in. Waiting there, suburban breeze blew through your hair, and thought of a story that I could stick to. I said I don't like rock and roll, but I don't want to stay at home. I just stopped by on my way to someplace low. Call, so I called you. I needed something to do to pass the time. My life's in pieces. They tell me Jesus takes my kind. Well, I hope he lives in Minnesota, 'cause that's the place I've gotta go. The case is up in that cold town. Extradition, just another detour on your mission to get a good story that you can stick to. I said I